Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of DAO Envelop podcast. I'm your host, Eugene Crypto MC, and today I'm having Sam Simmons. He is the venture capital and NFT space. He's an NFT investor. He's the buyer and seller of JPEGs. Have you read on his LinkedIn? A couple of months ago, he totally dedicated his life to NFT space. He founded Non-Fungible Ventures. So I'm expecting a great talk about the purpose of this JPEGs buying and selling JPEGs. So Sam, it's great to have you on our podcast. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The one item you missed on that was degenerate or degen, which I don't add to the LinkedIn title, but that should be thrown in there too. No, and I'm very happy to be here. It's an exciting time in the space right now, and I suppose I can talk a little bit about my background and kind of where that led me to today. So my background's in streaming media. I had previously worked with and then went on to run a poker content production company. I'm based in Las Vegas, and that's why we produce distributed, streamed live poker tournaments and events, and did that for several years. I was doing some angel investing on the side. I've been in crypto since 2017, but very passively. You know, one of those things where you check Bitcoin price daily. If it's up, you're happy. If it's down, you're sad. But never really took the time to get to know the technology and understand why this whole movement in Web3 was so revolutionary. And NFTs specifically really unlocked something for me. And it harkens back to the media days where really our success metrics were based on a number of anonymous measurables in relation to our audience. So you look on the streaming side and you have this number of viewers that sits in the bottom left of a Twitch stream. When it's even worse in the TV world, where you have TV ratings, which may or may not be actually representative of the viewers you got, but based upon these random boxes they put in people's households, they could say with some sort of degree of confidence that that's how many people viewed your programming. But obviously, especially as we set out and we had set out to create great content for hardcore and casual poker fans, there's really no discourse. There's no connection between the brand that's organizing the IP and delivering the IP to consumers in a way that fulfills that passion, as well as on the user side, users being able to provide feedback and provide sort of a direction for what we're creating to build that matching phenomenon of delivering content in the way, in the medium that people enjoy it. So I was really very quickly enamored with the NFT space for that reason, and the potential that it has to solve problems like that. Obviously, you know, I'm wearing my Bored Ape shirt here. There's higher profile stories out there around, you know, the JPEGs going for large sums of money and trading hands at exorbitant dollar amounts. But I think the real use case goes well beyond that, and that's really what got me most interested in the space, and that's led me to what I'm doing today. Non-Fungible Ventures is, to a degree, an investing arm, which I can touch on separately, but primarily today a consulting and advisory arm. And really what I specialize in is taking traditional IP and creating fandom experiences in a digital way through the use of NFT technology. So how to bring people closer to their passions, not only bring them closer to the IP itself, whether that be on a team level, a league level in sports, an artist level, an entertainer level, but with other people that share that passion. Because inevitably, if I have a passion with someone that's shared with someone else, we're going to have something in common, and there's ways to build connections that way. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then on the other side of things, on the venture side, I'm a partner in a new fund called Dream Ventures, and I'm talking to a lot of really exciting early stage NFT, Web3, crypto projects that I'm willing to bet financially that are going to go on to change the world. So I really enjoy it. It's a little bit of the macro on the investing side. It's a little bit of the micro on the operational building side of things. But all in all, no day is boring, that's for sure.
Of course, you are joking when you're saying that you're buying and saying JPEGs, because we do not understand that NFTs are not just JPEGs. Its utility comes beyond that, but we haven't discovered this utility yet. What are your main thoughts on utility of NFT? When we will have NFT world not based on JPEGs only?
Sorry, you're asking when we're going to have that world?
When we will have the world with full of NFT with real utility.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I think of it as like the early stage of the internet, and that's an easy example. But let's take that to a micro level. Of how we thought about the internet in the early stages. where I'm 30 years old. I grew up in my earliest memory of the internet is in like the AOL dial-up days. I have that the sound it made burned in my memory from an early stage. And it was a novelty to use the internet. It was, you had one computer in the house, or at least we did. I'm one of 6 children. We kind of traded turns. I would go on and do my sporting stuff. My sister would go on and do different websites that involved her. I don't even remember now, but involve toys and whatnot. But it was an activity. It was, I'm going to go on the internet. It was, I'm going to go to check out websites and I'm going to do this or that. And that sounds so simple, but think about how we think about the internet today. It's no longer, I'm going to go hop on the internet. It's, I'm going to Amazon to buy this and this apparel. I'm going to go read the news on CNN.com. I'm going to go buy NFTs on OpenSea or wherever else it may be. Where the point of that story is the technology has become very much background and in fact somewhat arbitrary. And it's that front end experience that makes all the difference and where the value really lies. And I think that's the point that we will eventually get to with NFTs, even so far that we won't even call them NFTs, because NFTs, much like the internet, are the underlying technology, but it is the utility of the NFTs and what those NFTs do for you, whether it be bringing you closer to your passions, whether it be a club membership, where it be just art for the sake of art, whether it be something that is a identity piece for your metaverse presence. All of these different fun, buzzy things. The NFT part is rather arbitrary. Eventually the NFT is just the non-fungible token aspect is just the technology that drives it, but it is the experience, it is the value to be derived from it that actually matters.
Is there something in Web3 going beyond NFTs? What excites you as well? DAOs, DeFi, metaverse, whatever, layer 1 blockchains, what else?
Yeah, that could be a very long answer because there is a lot. I'll say openly, I'm not much of a DeFi guy. Maybe my brain's not big enough for it, and I haven't really gotten deep into that space. I do think though that, the NFTs and metaverse go hand in hand. You really can't have a conversation about one without talking about the other. So I'll take metaverse on that one. And I think the misconception to a lot of lay people is that the metaverse is a new thing. And in fact, the metaverse has been around for a long time in various capacities. It just wasn't besides, you have the certain games like Fortnite. I grew up playing World of Warcraft. Those are in fact open worlds. Those are metaverses. So that's not it's where you can interact with friends digitally, spend time together, enjoy experiences. Those aren't new things. But going back to the element of NFTs that unlocks the ability to translate properties of physical ownership into the digital world. And that is a really unique aspect as we go on to spend more time on our devices, whether that be on mobile devices, whether that be on web devices, but spend more time interacting with people on digital forums in whatever capacity that may be, whether that be virtual reality, whether that be augmented reality, whether that be a straight up gaming experience. NFTs stand to make that experience more enriching and I think lead to more fulfilling experiences that lead to mainstream adoption. So I see metaverses as somewhat the vehicle for mainstream adoption of NFT technology and how they work together hand in hand. So I guess to answer the question more specifically, that's probably what I'm most excited about.
I do remember the early days of the internet when it was Web 1. I think that my first exposure on the first website perhaps in 1998. And those time, the vast majority of people perceived internet such a fancy toy, like advertising on the internet, electronic advertising, and pornography, of course. And we know how things have changed.
Yeah.
In next 20 years. So now the vast majority of people perceive Web3 like a fancy toy, JPEGs and so on and so forth. Why are they wrong? Would you suggest people from Web2 to close look on Web3 or to switch the carriers?
Yeah. To be fair to a lot of guys, I spend a lot of my time talking to these, let's call them Web2 executives that are exposed to the space, but confused by the space. And really my time is spent doing the hand holding to not only educate on the space, but then navigate the space to outlining strategy, to executing that strategy, and setting up long-term success with a thriving project that accomplishes key business initiatives. I think it's a bit of a novelty today, and like a shiny toy. And in fact, I wouldn't even say that it isn't a shiny toy today, just because you don't like the best use cases for it have yet to be found and yet to be identified. So I don't blame executives for wanting to kind of just play around and test things out without really a long-term orientation, because it is so new. And I think as we start to see blue chip brands, the likes of Nike, Disney has gotten involved in recent months, and others get involved in the space, I think that creates a sort of comfort level with the larger brand picture in getting involved in the market. I really think the emphasis, though, and it's an example that I like to think about in how we think about like a standard NFT project is it's very backwards from a traditional marketing cycle. You think about, let's go with the example of like a t-shirt company. The typical funnel, when you talk about like Web 1 advertising or even Web 2 advertising, I create a great t-shirt. I want to sell this to people. I create an advertisement that lets people know the value they'll get promoting this t-shirt, whether it be looks, whether it be comfort, whether it be the fit of the t-shirt, whatever. I run ads exemplifying that value across social media channels. I probably hit someone once, twice, 3 times. Let's say the 4th time they said, you know what, I'm buying this t-shirt. They buy the t-shirt, they get the t-shirt, and then that's the end of the experience. Like, I have my t-shirt, they have their money that I paid for that t-shirt. They'll probably remarket to me. But besides that, like our relationship is over. In the Web3 world, it's a bit flipped on its head, at least as it pertains to like the standard NFT project, where rather than the point of transaction being on the end of the funnel where you have add purchase, it's the opposite, where you're selling something and you're asking a community to commit to you, whether it be based upon the product that you output, whether it be your brand values, whether it be the history that they have in consuming your product or working with your brand, whatever it may be. And then the sort of ongoing relationship, which would have been developed through advertisements, comes on the back end in terms of utility. So here's your community subset of individuals that are willing to buy into your brand. The transaction happens up front. And I think the mistake a lot of brands make today is that they think that that's the end, where they, much like in an old world, they paid me money. I got that money, they got their NFT as the value that's being delivered, and that's it. That's the end of the relationship. But it's so much more than that. And it's the ability to create experiences and develop relationships on a very specific user level between brand and those users, as well as between the users, and building connections with people that have that same brand affinity. And it's in you get into the world then of verifiable scarcity, where you know that there's only, say, 10,000 diehard lovers of this brand that resonate with the values, which enjoy the product. And you really turn what were once anonymous customers into brand advocates that are making your brand one of the key aspects of their digital identity in whatever way, shape, or form that may be, whether that be through an avatar, whether that be through a wearable, whether that be through something they post on social media, whatever else, and using it as like a flex mechanism. So it's a unique dynamic of turning just of standard customers into brand advocates, and the power that has in extending and creating an advocacy dynamic to non-customers, perhaps. So it's my point being, I can be long-winded, I do apologize. My point being, I don't blame executives for, I guess, being a little bit confused in the space and not really knowing how to get involved or when to get involved, just because it's such a foreign concept if you think about the flow of things.
Well, there's no surprise that the vast majority of people about free space were disappointed with the lack of utility of NFTs. That's why they invented the term buying and selling JPEGs. And a lot of being discussed right now about a concept of smart NFT. So it's been invented in order to fill this gap with utility. And what is smart NFT, in particular, the Envelop has been doing that. It is the concept where NFT is taken, where we add some fungible token to it for price predictability. And we wrap it up with a set of new features such as time lock or event lock, royalties, rental mechanics, and technically we get the same NFT with much more predictability. And all this leads to dozens of use cases in play to earn, or even in selling tokens of startup to VC investors, and so on and so forth. May you share your main thoughts or your feedback on this concept? Do you find this concept of smart NFT with fungible token inside useful? And if yes, where and why?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think that so much of this space is built around composability, and if to truly own an asset, you have to have control of that asset, and to be able to an extent manipulate that asset at your choosing, whether it be for the purposes of staking, whether it be for the purposes of buying and selling, or other forms of value manipulation. So I think any ways that you can continue to derive value out of the NFTs that we own in creative ways that have not been addressed before, I think is terrific. I mentioned it before that the premium and the best use cases for this technology have yet to unfold. So it's things like that are at the cutting edge of where the space all evolves to. And ultimately, it's about delivering value, and to provide that extended value, enhanced value on a traditional NFT only stands to benefit the ecosystem on the whole.
Well, so the future of NFT is promising, but how do you see the future? How Web3 will inevitably change our world, how we do live, how we do business in 5 or 10 years? Do you have a vision?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I'll say that. I don't necessarily have a vision in my mind, and I frankly don't like to put parameters on adoption, just because there's a lot of unpredictability in the coming years. But I think we get there. I think what it takes, a little bit to what we discussed earlier, is I think the key aspects are twofold. First off is education, getting the mainstream world to understand the true value of NFT technology and the value it has to users. I think a lot of people from the outside looking in see them as silly scams, where people are just money laundering, wash trading, sending high value assets back and forth that actually have no real value. And obviously those in the industry would know that isn't correct. So I think it's about the education piece and understanding that there is value to verification, to authentication of digital assets in whatever way, shape, or form that may be, besides just JPEG profile pictures. And then it's about user experience. I think that I find this myself, I don't know if you've had this experience where there's a normie, let's say, that's someone who hasn't bought an NFT before, who comes to me and says, hey, I want to get involved. How do I do it? And so I kind of sit down, and it's been a while for me because I have my wallet loaded already, so I don't really need to go through the whole onboarding process these days. But to let's say you want to buy Ethereum NFTs on OpenSea, the process of funding, exchanging fiat for crypto via an exchange like Coinbase, let's say, then waiting to authenticate your account. I think as of recently, they now require KYC. Then waiting for a hold period to lapse where you can only send a certain amount to an outside wallet, then downloading MetaMask, getting it into a MetaMask, getting to OpenSea, connecting your wallet, approving the transaction with gas fees, and all these weird concepts that aren't necessarily I guess native to a non-crypto user. It's burdensome and it's cumbersome, and it's difficult to get people excited about engaging in something like that. So the user experience part is so key to getting to that point of adoption where we're actually seeing like widespread change in different industries. But I do think that's coming. I think we're seeing really nice, I think we're seeing a nice hybrid of centralization and decentralization with custodial wallets in NFT marketplaces now. So for those that don't have the comfort level of being able to own their full, I guess, asset portfolio via MetaMask or similar, there's sort of a middle ground between the decentralization and centralization in that capacity, while still being able to engage in the space, being able to have fiat on-ramps and things like that. But even further, but to the earlier point as well, I think it's about getting to the point where we no longer even think of them as NFTs, where the technology just exists. This replaces the infrastructure of, say, having a passport, for example. I think that could be an extreme eventual use case where your your verification of citizenship and your ability to enter and leave various countries based upon that citizenship no longer exists on a piece of paper that can be so easily lost while traveling abroad. I actually just last month was traveling abroad for 35 days. This one comes to mind after almost leaving my passport in a safe a time or two. But things like that where, it makes sense with so much of our lives being on devices like this, where I have my passport information living here digitally, where when I go through customs, I could scan that and have that do through facial recognition, have that verified versus needing to have that piece of paper with me. I think healthcare is a big one too, where we've all probably experienced going to a new doctor, new practitioner, and having to fill out 15 to 20 pages of family medical history and trying to remember what was that issue that your grandfather had, or what am I allergic to again? But what if you could have that all live as a private NFT that you can basically, whenever you go to a new doctor, be able to share that and allow them access to that information, and then being able to withdraw that access to that information as you see fit, as your care necessitates it. So different things like that. You start to piece together these real world use cases that just make a lot of sense. And that's what gets me excited about the future, as you can maybe tell, is those types of use cases and getting to that point where, on a user level, for someone that's not into crypto, it's not about it's not about using the NFT. It's about, this is just a new technology that makes a lot of sense and makes my life better. And I think that's the point we get to.
Absolutely, absolutely. By the way, how many people around you understand well what you have been doing recent month, and how to explain them?
It's not very many is the answer. It's an interesting sort of juxtaposition, because like I said, I come from a non-crypto world, so a lot of my close friends and family aren't crypto native at all. And I also don't want to be too preachy, because I think a lot of people have a certain perception of NFTs in the crypto space, and you don't want to come in too hot with the onboarding and the whole pitch about why they should be getting involved, especially with money on the line. So I try to position myself amongst friends, family, network as a resource more than an advocate, to be honest, where if anyone wants to get involved and they have questions, I'm always the first to volunteer to explain it, but I'm also not out there waving the flag of NFTs and trying to get people involved necessarily. I think it's just a matter of time until it happens, but everyone needs to kind of do it at their own pace and do it in a way that's comfortable for them.
Okay, so you are not chaotically selling this stuff all around. You are educating by request. So
by request, yes. I don't push it on people, we'll say. I'm certainly an advocate for those that wish to engage, and my best piece of advice that I give to people is not to buy, but just to engage, to learn, to participate, to educate yourself. And ultimately, I always find that is sort of a pathway to purchase. What I think the worst thing you could do is go in with the mindset of financial returns and purchase before understanding. And I say that from a little bit of experience. That's how I initially got involved, was buying first at uncomfortable price points, and I got burned for it, and I deserved it. But that's setting yourself up for failure, is to risk money and treat it like a gambling experiment versus a learning educational experiment. And if you want to buy something later, then great. But I think through the education process, you stand to be well positioned to, in whatever industry you may be in, to take advantage of the coming wave of technological progress in the months and years ahead. And you don't need to make any purchase for that. So people say that there's a high barrier to entry from the standpoint of needing to purchase an asset, which can sometimes be expensive. But I think it's the opposite. It's the lowest barrier to entry possible, where there's so much education available for free out there, so many great resources, so many materials to consume and learn from, and take it at your own pace. You can spend casual time on this stuff and continue to immerse yourself to whatever level you so please. I mean, I'm a believer in the technology is not going anywhere. So I think even just a little bit is a lot at this stage in the game when we're so early in the process.
What is your personal learning strategy for Web3? What are your thought leaders you are following, podcasts, favorites, media, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't have time these days to consume as much media as I would like. I'm I don't typically follow a lot of influencers. I think that that's kind of a negative part of the space in its current form, is that it's very influencer driven, where at the same time, there's not a ton of transparency when it comes to disclosures and what's an advertisement, what's not. And a lot of people will attribute expertise to influencers wrongly and make poor financial decisions based upon that. So I'm very selective about who I take advice from and who I learn from, to be quite honest with you. My favorite resources, when I do get to consume media, the ones I do consume, Raoul Powell with crypto, Adventures in Crypto on Real Vision. It's a free resource every week. He has conversations with very smart people in the realms of Web3, macroeconomics, and so on. There's some really great conversations about NFTs in particular. Punk 6529, if I remember the name correctly. That's probably the one person that I give credence to on Twitter. He has some great Twitter threads. He also appeared on the podcast for Real Vision. So that's a great episode, and one that I always point to, and kind of like that aha moment for those that are looking to learn more about the space. And then Packy McCormick and Not Boring is one of my favorite newsletters. And he talks about a number of different startup type industries, but the Web3 and NFT stuff he writes about really had a big impact on me getting involved in the space over a year ago. And lastly, just for like daily updates, I subscribe to the Milk Road, which is basically like the morning brew, if anyone's familiar with that, but for crypto in particular. So just kind of to be able to stay on top of like the most pressing news and updates from the space, that's a 3 to 5 minute read at the most, and it comes in daily. So that's a nice little one too.
Looks strange, but you did not mention Bankless podcast. So they have the sister branch named Overpriced GPEX with Kaylee Really. So
oh yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Like I said, I wish I had more time to consume this stuff. On my Spotify here, I have like a laundry list of podcasts that I have in my queue. It's just a matter of being able to find the time for them. But I'm gonna add that to my list and prioritize it for next time.
Absolutely. So Sam, what's the best way to follow you on the internet, to reach you out, to get in touch with you for your services and so forth?
Yeah, LinkedIn's always best. So LinkedIn name is my name, Sam Simmons. I have some sort of JPEG as my profile picture. I don't know which one it's going to end up being. Right now it's my Bored Ape, but depends kind of how I'm feeling on that given day. But reach out there. I see and respond to all messages. Please do connect anytime and let me know how I could help, whether it be something formal or just bouncing off questions. I'm always happy to answer.
Amazing. So you may find all the links for Sam's profiles on the description below, and Sam is also tagged where you have found this podcast on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. So Sam Simmons, the founder of Non-Fungibly Ventures, and me, Eugene Krippin, MC of the host of the Envelop podcast, where do you thank you for watching and listening. Please like, subscribe, share. Stay tuned for next episodes. We deliver you unique content by talking with people who create this industry by their minds and their hands. Thank you very much. Stay tuned and see you in the next episode of the Envelop podcast. Bye-bye. Blockchain. BLOCK chain. Digital money, smart contracts, NFT, IDO, decentralization, transparency. So many opportunities, but so many challenges. Some financial manipulators, by their actions, confuse blockchain solutions and block their development. The idea that the blockchain should bring copyright and royalties protection to the next level is quite old, but the realizations of these ideas are not perfect at all. There is another problem of determining the value of a particular cryptocurrency or NFT. These and other problems need to be solved. Fortunately, the blockchain infrastructure is evolving. My name is E, Mr. E, and I represent the Envelop project. Many things have already been invented in the blockchain today. Tokens, smart contracts, platforms for creating your own coins, NFTs, exchanges for buying, selling, and exchanging all these blockchain resources. Envelop is another step in the development of crypto technologies. The protocol that works with NFT and cryptocurrencies. The idea is simple but disruptive. Let's assume you have an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Using the Envelop protocol, you can wrap the original NFT accompanied with several tokens. Technically, you get a similar NFT, But what is the breakthrough here? Once wrapped, the token has a number of additional features that were not available before. The minimal cost appears. It is provided with coins wrapped together with NFT. An asset wrapped with Envelop has a number of properties that allow the original author to receive royalties from the resale of that asset. Various rules can be applied to the wrapped token. For example, a lock period for unwrapping. It secures the asset till the determined moment or safeguards it from speculation during the hype period. At the same time, wrapped tokens can be transferred and traded. These are just some of the scenarios for using Envelop. NFTs become more popular, and the tools provided by Envelop expand the opportunities of NFTs utilization. Wide application possibilities are achieved due to the fact that, in addition to the protocol, the project includes a number of subsystems. The protocol provides functions wrapping and unwrapping. Oracle Mechanics provides asset valuation using analytical algorithms. Index provides a summary assessment of several NFT assets with the common criteria. The project has its own token, which connects all elements of the system. Altogether, this is Envelop, a tool in the blockchain world for building modern and secure systems in various fields. Find more info about the project on the website. Envelop. Make your NFT valuable. Just practical, no hype.